Talk about Super Dwarf cows.
Oh,
Ashley liked one.
Super Dwarf Cow. That would be good.
We just hatched some.
I seen the cow, seeing a 50% cow was epic for me.
So what is it about this morph, the cow Super Dwarf, that has everybody so stoked? So if you haven't heard of the cow reticulated python, you have been living under a rock. This animal, it's absolutely, honestly, unbelievable that it even exists. In fact, when I first saw them post about this was by them, I mean Kevin McCurley over at Nerd, the originator of this morph in Mainlands, I couldn't believe what they were saying. They said it had nothing to do with the platinum gene at all, which two platinums together make an all-white leucistic snake. And he said it had nothing to do with platinum, and immediately in my mind I was like, okay, I call BS. But that's actually not the case. It has nothing to do with platinum. And in a minute here, we're gonna actually talk to Kevin McCurley himself to hear what it was that he thought watching these things hatch and then grow for the very first time. But before we get into that, let's talk about what is a Super Dwarf cow. First of all, in the world of reticulated python breeding, if we refer to a morph or a mutation other than anery, which starts in dwarf and super dwarf, as a super dwarf, what we're talking about is something that is 50% super dwarf or above. In this guy's case, Kobe here, it's 50% Callatoa. He is actually the very first super dwarf cow ever produced. Now the cow is actually a super form or homozygous form of a mutation, but it's two different mutations that occur on the same allele. Basically what that means is you have two heterozygous different mutations that can breed together and act like the super form of either of those. However, they sometimes look different, and in this case, significantly different. See, the two halves of the equation are these. You have phantom, and you have orange ghost stripe. Now, the phantom is very obvious in its heterozygous form, and that's why we call it an incomplete dominant. In other words, when you breed a phantom to a normal, half of the clutch is gonna come out phantom. Orange ghost stripe is, I mean, you can tell a head orange ghost stripe if we're being honest, but it's a lot less obvious. So the retic community has dubbed that morph as a recessive morph. For example, the ball python community, you have something like a yellow belly. They call it an incomplete dominant, and they say that, you know, super yellow belly would make like an ivory. And they say you can tell them, but I can't tell them. Head orange ghost stripe, I can't really tell it. Phantom, pretty much everyone can tell when something has a phantom. Now, where it gets tricky is when you have the homozygous form. In other words, both parents are contributing the same mutation. If both parents are phantoms, you will get a certain amount of super phantoms, which cows and super phantoms were produced right alongside each other. So a super phantom is an all white snake, no pattern or color whatsoever, with these same brilliant blue eyes that a cow has. The orange ghost stripe, not so much. The orange ghost stripe, if you breed two, we call them hogs, head orange ghost stripe, but if you want to breed two hogs together, why are these all farm animals, Jeremy? We got hogs, we got cows. Anyway, if you want to breed two hogs together, then what you get is an orange ghost stripe. This is an animal with like half tones of black, a completely obliterated pattern, and it leaves a lot of the base coloration of the reticulated pythons though. So a lot of times you get like a yellowish dorsal and deep orange or brown sides. So the unexpected thing is, when you breed those together, why the heck do you make this? Now, a cow, if you look at a baby one, it's almost indistinguishable from a super phantom, except that it has a little bit of yellow streaking within the otherwise should be patternless, colorless, just like I said the blue-eyed Lucies are. But it doesn't end there. See, once the animal grows, actually with every single shed cycle, a little splash of that head orange ghost stripe color starts to come out. So you get blotches of blacks, browns, oranges, yellows, golds, grays in increasing size and amount with every single shed. When an animal goes through a color change from baby to adult, this is called ontogenetic color change. Every retic gets a little bit brighter as an adult, but there's nothing as extreme as a cow. Now, from a breeding perspective, when you use a cow as a breeder, those two genetic traits perfectly split again. In other words, the babies you produce, if I was to breed a cow retic like this guy to a normal retic, half of the babies come out phantom, and the other half will be 100% het for orange ghost stripe. If you were to breed two cows together, it gets even crazier because the genes split down the middle through meiosis and then reattach to whatever genetic trait is thrown by the other parent. So if both parents throw phantom, you get super phantoms. If one throws phantom, one throws orange ghost stripe, you get cows. And if both throw het orange ghost stripe, then you get orange ghost stripe. All in one breeding, cow to cow is gonna make the solid white super phantoms, cows, and the super bright orange ghost stripes all in one clutch. So back to our question. What is it that makes the cow retic so attractive or such like a lifer animal, a bucket list type of snake that everybody out there wants to get their hands on one? Obviously, they have crazy looks with a crazy genetic inheritance behind it, but I think there's more than meets the eye. You think about human interactions with animals over time. We take a wild type animal, which many people, especially when they don't understand them, find rather scary, and then we change it to be more appealing to something within our innate nature. And this process over many generations is called domestication. The funny thing about domestication, if you think about it, almost every single domesticated, if not every single domesticated species that humans have worked with for thousands of years ends up with animals with giant splashes of white, bright blue eyes, and random selected pattern. These guys are actually named after cows for this very same trait. You think of the classic Holstein cow, you've got black and white splotches everywhere. Now, I mentioned a little bit that when Nerd first put up their pictures of the Super Dwarf Cow, I did not believe them whatsoever on the genetics that they were claiming created this animal. I could theorize all day long about what it must have been like to hatch the world's first Super Dwarf Cow, a morph that looks like nothing else out there. But why speculate when we can ask the man himself?
Garrett, I just want to make sure before I do this interview, the snake's not going to bite me, right? Because I could be scared.
Anything with a mouth can bite, Kevin.
Woo! Okay, would you like to know about the cow retic? Originates from orange ghost stripe, which I had first brought in, and then phantom stripe, which I actually thought was kind of like a lesser orange ghost stripe because they both, they had a lot of similarities. The phenotype, the visual look was reflecting something, the genotype that I knew was genetic. So I bred them together. When we were breeding these together and the babies were hatching, I saw white snakes again and I was just like, oh goodness, another leucistic. So I get these white snakes and I got some white snakes with a little bit yellow, some like yellow stripes, just like this, down its back. And then I had some pure white ones because I also was including golden child into that breeding. So I had some pure white ones and then I had a couple ones with some spots on them. Didn't think anything of it. But what was happening as we were raising the animals, we started seeing a proliferation of more melanin, more strange colors, orange. It was very, very surprising. Every time they shed, they got more black dots. And I was like, what is going on? These actually, the cow retic, through its entire life is going to go through a transition. So it never stops adding melanin. It's an animal that's constantly going through a transition and it's morphing. I've produced lots of designer combos, but this was probably my most exciting one. It just took a little while for me to actually realize what was happening. People that are afraid of snakes actually would receive the cow mutation very differently than if I just put a Burmese python or a wild type retic, and they were far less apprehensive to actually touch it, to interact with it, to actually hold it, because it looked so non-menacing. So it takes away from the natural menace that somebody might have if they're unaware or they're afraid of snakes.
Why would a Super Dwarf Cow be the ultimate snake that pet keepers covet, desire, and want someday to own? If you combine the domesticated appearance of this animal, something friendly that everyone, beginner and expert alike, can appreciate and enjoy. Hi, buddy. And you combine that with the curious, interactive nature that is the reticulated python, you almost have the perfect pet. What's the one thing that stands in your way? Reticulated pythons get too big for the majority of people. Let's just say it like it is. Certainly plenty of people that keep mainland retics without issue, but it's not for everyone. Enter the Super Dwarf side of the equation, that 50% Calatoa. When you have adult animals this size, weight-wise in my hands about the same as any ball python, length a little bit greater so that they're better for exploring and cruising around, interacting with you, checking you out while you hang out with your animal. And the Super Dwarf size, the cow coloration, and the reticulated python natural confidence and curiosity all combine for a snake keeping experience that can't be matched. It just can't be matched. Several years ago, I made a video talking about the best possible investment in breeding Super Dwarf retics, and we mentioned a phantom male. Females were still very expensive. Males' prices had come down, plus you could make a lot of them. So breeding that Super Dwarf phantom, remember, acts as an incomplete dominant, into a pure Super Dwarf female would produce a small army of tiny little phantom female retics, which you would have then been growing up. If that was you and you listened and you want to know the best investment for 2024, go out and get yourself a Super Dwarf orange ghost stripe male that you can then run to all of those phantom females. The orange ghost stripe side being recessive and not as quick to reproduce in captivity has remained rare and expensive. It's very hard to find anything over that 50% Super Dwarf threshold that is a visual orange ghost stripe. We've produced them in small numbers for a handful of years, along with the head orange ghost stripes, which actually sell very well because everybody has one end in mind. It doesn't matter if you've made one or hundreds of cow reticulated pythons, there is nothing like watching that little white-nosed, blue-eyed baby pip out of its egg for the first time. If you're wanting to have that experience for yourself, then the future of Super Dwarf cows is with you. I'm just falling in love with them.
Garrett, you look like you had devil horns the entire time. We're gonna have to film everything all over you. I could not have picked worse placement for that cow.
No, we're not doing that. Just film it. Send it.